Week 2, History of the Computer, the Calculating Devices. Will you not agree with me that we are so grateful for those who created the very popular Casio calculator, widely used in our schools today? Or what about the calculator app on our smartphones, which we use for those big calculations when we are at home? Are you not curious to know what the previous generations, from way back to the early men, used for their counting and calculating, which all built up to what we use today? That's exactly what this week's topic is all about, as we will be looking at how men moved from using early counting devices to mechanical calculating devices, then electromechanical, and finally to the present electronic computing devices we use today. Are you excited about this or what? Let's dive in by starting with early counting devices. But first, you must understand that a device is any object, equipment, or machine that helps to accomplish a particular task. In this case of our topic, the task of counting or calculating. Now, early counting devices. In the time of the early men, they did not have the type of counting devices we use today. But they were still faced with the problem of counting and calculating. Just like we learned about the men in the Stone Age period in week 1 topic, who were majorly farmers, hunter-gatherers, and nomads. Now, with this their occupation, this meant they cultivated crops and reared animals like sheep, cattle, goats, etc. And as a result, they were faced with the issue of counting their produce or animals. On a lighter note, can you imagine the kind of language they spoke then? Like those cavemen. It certainly wasn't English. Maybe caveman language like goo goo ga ga ga. Okay, let's move on. Now, this issue of counting stirred up their curiosity. They began to notice a part of their body that looked like a suitable device for counting, which were their fingers first and then their toes. You can imagine how excited they would have felt after discovering this. However, their fingers and toes weren't enough to count large numbers, and therefore this led them to discover other early counting devices such as stones, rocks, sticks, pebbles, grains, beads, bones. In fact, I formed a song that will help you remember these early counting devices always. It goes like this. Early counting devices, early counting devices. First were fingers, next were toes, pebbles, cowries, sticks and stones, rocks, beads, grains, and nuts on ropes. Woo! Awesome. Okay, now these devices served for a while, but as time went on and man started becoming more civilized, they became problematic as using them was very difficult to count large numbers. Finding much of them to count large numbers was also quite difficult, and even some of them were heavy to carry. This led to the invention of mechanical calculating devices. So the second one, which is mechanical calculating devices, these are devices that were manual in nature, and they had moving parts that were used to perform tasks like calculations. By manual, we mean they were not powered by electricity and were largely manipulated with the hands and feet. The prominent mechanical calculating devices that were produced after the early counting devices include A. Abacus, B. Slide rule, C. Pascal wheel, and D. Napier's bone. Now, starting with A. Abacus. This mechanical counting device or calculating device originated from Mesopotamia and was produced around the year 2700 to 2300 BC. The Chinese developed a very popular version called the Swan Pan abacus around 200 BC, which is before Christ. It consists of beads fitted on vertical iron rods and a horizontal bar representing units of measurement such as units, tens, hundreds, thousands, etc. The abacus is also called counting frame, and it was mainly used to perform addition and subtraction. Now moving to the slide rule. The slide rule was invented by an English mathematician called William Oughtred in 1620 AD. That is the early 17th century. It is a mechanical device made up of a ruler and a movable middle piece, which are graduated with logarithmic scales. The slide rule was mainly used for multiplication and division, but could also perform functions such as roots, meaning square roots, cube roots, logarithms, and trigonometry. In fact, this slide rule was very, very popular, okay? And it was used by scientists, engineers, and the likes until the invention of calculator in the late 19th centuries made it become obsolete or outdated. Now going to the third one, Pascal wheel or calculator. This machine was invented in 1642 by a 19-year-old boy. Can you imagine? Just 19 years old, named Blaise Pascal. It is also called adding machine because it could accurately perform addition and subtraction. It also performed multiplication and division by carrying out repeated additions and subtractions respectively. Blaise Pascal was inspired to invent the Pascal line because he saw that it was needed to carry out numerical calculations in his father's job as a tax supervisor. The machine had several wheels with teeth. The first wheel represented the units, the second represented the tens, the third hundreds, and so on. Rolling the wheel clockwise performed addition and indirectly performed subtraction. Now moving to the final popular mechanical calculating device, Napier's bone. It was invented in the year 1614 by a Scottish mathematician called John Napier. His device could perform logarithm and multiplication. and the multiplication was done by breaking the table entries down to addition. The machine was made up of rods upon which the multiplication table was engraved. These rods were originally made up of ivory bones, hence the name Napier bones. Now moving to electromechanical calculating devices. These were calculating devices that had both electronic and mechanical features. This means that the electricity or steam supplied to these machines aided the movement of the mechanical parts which were used to perform calculations or do specific tasks. The electricity made the mechanical devices perform their calculating tasks much faster. Electromechanical devices can also be categorized under electronic devices in a sense, mainly because they are powered by electricity. Examples of prominent electromechanical devices include A. Jacquard's loom, B. Analytical engine, and C. Hollerith's tabulating machine. Now, starting with the first electromechanical device that was quite popular, the Jacquard's loom. This machine was built by a French textile weaver called Joseph-Marie Jacquard in 1801. It was an automatic weaving machine which made use of punched cards to impute the weaving pattern to be woven by the needle and thread. Though it didn't perform any calculation, the punched cards technology it used was a major input device and processing device used in electronic computers. B. Analytical engine. Now, before the design of this machine was created, the creator, ever popular Charles Babbage, had earlier invented a machine called the difference engine in 1822. This English mathematician later created designs for the analytical engine in 1837, which contained many of the concepts used in our present-day computers. This is why he is regarded as the father of computers. The analytical engine design was the first to introduce the concept of general-purpose computing, which meant computers could do various tasks aside calculation. It also had the binary system of representing digital data, which a woman called Lady Ada, the first known programmer, convinced Charles to use. It had other features similar to the modern computers we have today. Unfortunately, in Charles Babbage's time, the analytical engine could not be created because what it required, the technology and equipment required, had not yet been built for that his time. So you can see how futuristic Charles Babbage was. And moving to the third one, Hollerith's tabulating machine. Hermann Hollerith was the one who created this machine, and it was an electromechanical calculating device he developed in the 19th century, specifically for tabulating data from the US Census of 1890. Now, census is basically the act of counting the amount of people in the country. Now, Hollerith's invention utilized punch cards to store and process information. These cards were fed into the machine where electrical connections were made based on the presence or absence of holes punched in specific locations on the cards. Now, Hollerith's invention laid the foundation for modern computer technology, and his company was later named International Business Machines, which is one of the very popular technological and computer companies we have in our present time. I'm moving to the last set of calculating devices, which is electronic calculating devices. These are devices that manipulate electrons gotten from electricity to perform various tasks. The early set of examples of electronic calculating devices include the ENIAC, the EDVAC, the EDSAC, and the UNIVAC. These electronic computers were all made by John Eckert and John Mauchly, popularly known as the John Johns. Now, later development saw the creation of personal computers by IBM, International Business Machines. We have several electronic devices in our present time, such as laptops, tablets, smartphones, ATMs, supercomputers, etc. So there you have it. We have just successfully looked at the history of computers. Now, evaluative questions goes thus. Number 1. Mention 6 early counting devices used by the early men. Number 2. What type of arithmetic calculation could the abacus majorly perform? Number 3. What is the difference between mechanical calculating device and electromechanical calculating device? Number 4. Even though the Jacquard's loom could not perform calculation, why was it included in the important electromechanical calculating devices in the history of computer? So those are the evaluative questions. Now, these are personal exercises I would like you to take to deepen your understanding of how some of these devices worked. Now, the first one is carry out an online research and learn how the Swampan abacus was used to perform addition and subtraction. Also learn how Napier's bone was used to perform multiplication and division. So thank you so much. I believe you've learned something insightful. Please attempt the evaluative questions before you look at their answers, and make sure you carry out the personal evaluative questions. See you in the next topic. Bye.